welcome everybody to our Boston College football report. We're getting close to another season, and head coach Bill O'Brien is here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You know, one of the things I always find odd about, especially college football coaches because of the timeline, is you're the head coach for such a long time before you ever actually get to coach a game. I mean, it's such a long period of time. It's got to be exciting to be finally getting close to being able to get out there for game number one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about football. There's so much preparation that goes into the off season. Winter conditioning, spring practice, getting used to their schedules. The players' schedules were a morning program. They go to class in the afternoon, and then the summer conditioning program. So, yeah, it has been, you're itching to get going, but you have to put that time in because, that's what football's all about, is the repetition and the preparation to get ready for the game.
As you're finally getting closer here, let's go big picture first, talk about the offense a little bit. What are sort of your big takeaways as we get close here to the season from what you've seen of your offense so far?
I think it's been good. I mean, it starts up front. I mean, we have a really good offensive line. We have depth. We have good leadership, athleticism. I like the offensive line. Tommy Castellanos has had a really good offseason. He's gotten better and better as the offseason's gone along. Training camp's been really good for him. I like the running backs. I think the tight end position's been consistent. And, the wide receivers, there's probably 5 or 6 guys there that'll help us. So I'm pleased with where they are. I think we have to have a good, next 2 weeks here and leading up to the game. But thus far, it's been good.
You're certainly not the first football coach that preaches one day at a time. Let's win today, then we'll get to tomorrow. How important is this time of year when you're going through camp to getting that message instilled and living it every day rather than just you being the one to say it?
Yeah, no, it's huge. I mean, there's nothing more critical than the foundation being built in training camp. I mean, you have to build the foundation of discipline, of conditioning, I always talk about these guys getting their bodies calloused to the season. That's why we're in pads a lot, don't always go live, but there's a lot of contact in training camp because there won't be as much contact when the season starts. So I think there's so much that goes into training camp, plus the bonding of the team. They're in the dorm together, they eat together, they're everywhere together basically because it's such a pretty regimented schedule. So I think training camp is a huge part of the season.
Can you kind of take us from maybe for the fans who love Boston College football but have never been in a huddle before, right? Which is certainly more than not. How do you define success on today's day X of camp versus, farther in? Are you counting completions and passes and sacks? Is it more intangible things? What are you looking for when you come in today? And these are the things I need to see today to know we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it's a good question. There are some statistics that you look at, obviously, like you said, completion percentage or, how many times did the DBs disrupt the ball or, different things like that. In the kicking game, how are we kicking the ball, punting it and kicking it? There's certain, measurables that you would look at. But in the end, it's really about, is there a good back and forth? If the offense is always dominating the defense, I'm not sure you have a really good team. If the defense is always dominating the offense, same thing, I'm not sure. But if you're back and forth and you're competing and one day, this side of the ball has the advantage and the next day this side, it's a good standard that they're setting relative to competition, then you probably have the makings of a pretty good team. And that's what I believe we have. We have in all 3 phases, these guys have competed hard, and they're doing a lot of really good things, and they're getting better every day. You can see the improvement in the way they play. So I think we're on the right track.
It might be the same answer, but from a culture standpoint, because of what we talked about, right? Your job right now is culture more than anything else until you actually get out.
Yeah.
What are the things you're looking for this time of year to say, all right, our culture's moving in the direction that I need it to be moving?
Yeah, I think just the simplest things, first of all, like being on time to meetings in the off season or, during the school year, going to class, participating in the community. That's what Boston College is all about, right? Giving back, a man for others. And so I think that was part of it, like learning about BC, understanding what Boston College is all about, because the more you know about BC, the more pride you're going to have in representing them on the football field. I think when it comes to the football end of things, it's the discipline. We have to be a disciplined team. We've got to, be aligned correctly. We've got to, we got to eliminate false starts. We got to eliminate neutral zone infractions. Things that we can control, we have to eliminate those and be a good disciplined team. We have to be a competitive team when it comes to, running to the ball, effort. We have to be a team that's filled with guys that want to do what's best for the team. We want to remove all selfishness and all ego from the team and be a team that really comes together and understands that, hey, my role in the team is very important. This is what's best for the team, and I think we're on the right track.
You mentioned your quarterback before. I think he kind of represents some of modern college offense and what modern quarterbacks do. How have you seen some of the X's and O's of how teams are playing offense in college specifically evolve over your time from when you were originally in the ACC as a coach to where you are now as you start this season?
Yeah, look, I think it has evolved. Although I will say, when I was at Georgia Tech in the late '90s, we had a guy at quarterback named Joe Hamilton who finished in the top 3 in the Heisman race that year in 1998. You know, he was a dynamic quarterback. He could throw, he could run. We were a very dynamic offense. I was the running back coach. Ralph Friedgen was the offensive coordinator. Doug Marrone was the offensive line coach. We were really good. And that, to me, was like kind of that type of offense was a premonition of what it was going to be moving forward. I really believe that. And so now, where we are now, some years later, you know, you have an offensive philosophy that really takes into account having a very athletic quarterback, a guy that can move, that can make off-schedule plays, but can also pass the ball from the pocket. I think Tommy can do those things. You know, he's a guy that's really improved in understanding, when to stay in the pocket, when to take off. That's got to show up in the games, but I think in practice we've seen that, and so I think, but yeah, offenses are a little bit different. The best comparison is in the Big Ten when I was at Penn State. Yeah, those type of offenses back in the 12 years ago, those are a lot different now. More spread offenses and more things relative to the conference, but yeah, I think our offense is going to be an offense that takes into account what Tommy can do.
You obviously have a pretty big first opponent, but that's not even so much the point of the question. At what point do things kind of switch from camp mode to opponent-specific game week mode, or because you do know your opponent, is it kind of sprinkled in all the way through your training camp?
Yeah, I would say that this week we're still in training camp, this week right here, and then as we head into the weekend and into next week, we'll start preparation. Again, the game's not till Monday night, right? So it's not a Saturday game, so we have a couple extra days. So we'll be in training camp for here a little while longer. Got a scrimmage on Wednesday. We'll still be in training camp Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then probably Sunday start to introduce the scouting report. If you start working on your opponent too early, then it just becomes monotony, and you don't really get done what you need to get done. So we'll trigger that probably next week sometime.
As a last point for fans watching this, they can't wait for Monday night. They got to wait a couple extra days. Are there certain players that have really stood out to you, maybe even some of the ones that maybe we wouldn't know yet, having not been at practice every day, that fans can kind of start to do their own research on and get excited about as we get close?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that have put in a lot of work. I mean, just starting on offense, at running back, everybody understands Kai Robichaux's back, but there's other guys there like Trayshawn Ward and, Detrell Jones, and then we have a freshman, Turbo Richard, aptly named because he can run, he's fast. Up front, Dwayne Alex had a really good camp. At receiver, you've seen Shake, we call him Shake, his name's Jaden McGowan, transfer from Vanderbilt's had a really good training camp. Reed Harris has had a good training camp. And then the Lewis Bond, the usual suspects are there. Defensively, I think, when you watch, obviously Donovan's had a really good camp, but you look at Bam Crouch at linebacker, KP Price at safety, Max Tucker and Amari Jackson at corner have had really good camps. And, there's other role-type guys like Carter Davis, who plays corner and safety, that have had good camps. Luca Lombardo, our place kicker, has had a really good camp. So, I think there's a lot of guys that have stood out that the fans, can start to research.
Thanks so much for the time and continued success here going forward.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.